Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back again for another channel update and random topics video. Really need to come up with a better name for these types of videos. I do them about once a month, twice a month, if it's a really packed, a really packed, busy month with lots of craziness happening, lots of topics I want to talk about. Um, and there is quite a few different things that have been happening over the past week in tech and gaming right now that I want to cover in this video. So we'll get into that here momentarily. But as I start these channel update videos, just want to let people know that I do unlock videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Sometimes I unlock, a little bit more frequently, give you guys a bonus video here and there. Maybe a holiday, maybe if something really cool is happening in the world of gaming, assistive tech, assistive technology, accessible games, or maybe just on a random whim, there's just a video I really want to release, or just because. But Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays are my usual days for content. Everything is divided into playlists, so you can find low vision spotlights, games I play visually with my remaining vision, accessible game spotlight series, where I look at games that are totally blind accessible, VR accessibility, accessible AI videos, my Growing Up Illegally Cited playlist, where I answer a lot of questions that people have and tackle other blind, low vision, and assistive technology product or not products, topics. My podcast presentations and interviews playlist. I've done a couple things there recently. So, there's just check it out. Check out the playlist section. So, hopefully, there's something that will be of interest to you. Because I've done some recent presentations and have shared my channel out to other places recently. Seems like I've gotten a few more subscribers lately, which is really cool to see. I did just take a look at before I started recording this video, and it looks like we are just under 4,500 subscribers right now. I think it was, what was it, 4,494? And so, to everybody who has been following the channel for a while, whether that's 10 minutes ago or 10 years, I definitely want to thank all you guys for your support. It is very much appreciated. And to all the new people, welcome. And again, I hope you find something of interest on the channel. As far as channel updates go, a lot of different things I've been covering lately. Not too much in the way of accessible games. We've had a couple that have had some neat accessibility features. We've had Atomfall, which had some really neat low vision text size options. We've had Avowed, which it had a few accessibility features in there. South of Midnight was pretty cool. Unfortunately, none of these games I would consider totally blind playable, but they did include a lot of accessibility features. I did actually finish South of Midnight because it is a nice linear game for the most part, and so all these other games are like big open worlds, and they're going to take 20, 30, dozens of hours to play through. But yeah, I did finish South of Midnight, and it had a few issues. You could kind of it became a little bit predictable as far as like, oh, you got a platforming section, then you got a puzzle section, then you got a combat section, and they were sort of all sort of separate things. But I really enjoyed the overall gameplay. I overall enjoyed the combat was fun. The story was interesting. The music is really the mood and the music. The voice acting I really enjoyed on that. Like the soundtrack in that game is really cool. But as I said, I've done a couple of recent presentations over the last couple of months, a couple through MDE, Minnesota Department of Education. They invited me to do in January a presentation on accessible gaming, an overview of accessible gaming, because, students, maybe they want to play some of the same games that their sighted friends are playing. But on top of that, you have people that are interested in art or sound design or entering something in the game, in the game industry field as a career. And so, just tackling a little bit of an overview of what's happening in the world of game accessibility. So that went pretty well. That was a fun presentation. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I did another one. They invited me back to do a presentation on accessible AI tools. So I did, about a little under an hour of kind of an introduction to some mainstream and blindness and vision specific AI tools, a lot of which I've covered on the channel already in some form. But I think that presentation went really well. It seemed to be received very well, which I appreciated, and I thank them for allowing me to um, also archive these on my YouTube channel as well for people to share. So if you haven't seen those presentations, check those out, and also visit the podcast presentations and interviews playlist. I've done lots of different presentations and podcast appearances and interviews and things like that over the past several years, and I find that I really enjoy it. Which leads me to the just quick topic of, if you are a content creator, you make videos, podcasts, that kind of a thing. If you are looking for guests, or you're looking for people to interview, I would be open to it. Please feel free to reach out. I can talk about, blindness, low vision, assistive technology, gaming, game accessibility, content creation. But I also don't want to limit myself to accessibility. And a matter of fact, sometimes I actually wouldn't mind, being a guest on a podcast, and, maybe we touch on accessibility, but sometimes it would be just fun to talk about, hey, let's talk about, the recent Apple news, or the recent gaming news, or the recent, a certain game that came out, or, other nerdy topic. Like I could talk about Cobra Kai for hours. Um, but sometimes, it's just fun to talk about other things that are, not necessarily accessibility related. I definitely enjoy and have no problem talking about game and tech accessibility, and I love doing it. But yeah, I mean, so sometimes I wouldn't mind talking about other stuff too. But if you're a content creator looking for a guest person to interview or chat with on an episode to fill in a seat or whatever, please reach out, and maybe we can work it out. Maybe we can figure something out. Because like I said, I've been doing this since 2012, and I find that I really enjoy doing this whole YouTube thing, making the videos, covering games, technology, even talking into the void, to myself with these types of channel update topic videos. Um, I love doing that, but as I've been invited to be a guest on some of these podcasts and things, I find that I really like doing that too. Being able to have one or two other people to bounce things back and forth with, have friendly chats, friendly debates on, different opinions on technology or accessibility or gaming, and anything like that in general. It's just really fun. I've actually toyed with the idea of doing a podcast or something like that for quite a few years now, but I really just my problem is I don't have the time, and I don't have the know-how of, like, I don't really know how to do a lot of audio editing at the moment. And so, like, ideally, I would like to, if I was gonna do a podcast, I would love to partner with somebody who maybe would have a little bit more time to be able to do some of the back end, like, oh, let's, if we're gonna, whether it's just shooting a video or a podcast live like I'm doing here, unedited, or, for more of a professional podcast type of thing, having somebody doing the audio editing part, because I have so many other things going on that I don't think I would be able to commit to that aspect of it. But also, the reason I haven't pursued it yet is I think it's really important to find people that really, kind of have a chemistry to do the podcast with. People who click really well together and can present well together. Because I've listened to many podcasts over the years, and a lot of them, I've started and then I just kind of fell away from them, um, or haven't really followed them for very long because the topics are interesting maybe, but like sometimes the hosts, they just maybe don't click as super well for me. And so like when you find a podcast, when you find a personality driven video series or podcast, you know what that's like, and so that's what kind of keeps you coming back. And so I would have to find somebody that I really wanted to host with, um, and maybe someone who would be able to take some of that back end stuff because like I said, I'm doing so many other things and I just don't have the audio editing experience to be able to do that type of thing right now. But yeah, that's just a little rambling about what's been happening on the channel. I've been doing some fun things, low vision games, a couple iOS accessible games here and there. I just did release the video for The Last of Us Part 2, which again is very accessible. Um, they just released a patch a couple days ago as I'm recording this, and I haven't tried it since that patch, but I'm really hoping that they fixed whatever in the heck is still causing that bug, because it's still, once you start playing for a few minutes, every couple minutes or so, it'll load a new little section or load something, and the game just hitches and stutters and freezes really bad. Like in between those sections, it's buttery smooth, but it just has it's almost like a memory leak, or like it's, again, this shader compilation nonsense. Um, there's something with either the way it's hammering the processor and or the CPU or the GPU all the time. And it's really annoying because especially with season 2 of The Last of Us TV show, a few episodes in now, it's like I really want to play through this again. Um, and I would love to do that, but I haven't gone back to it very much because of these weird technical issues. So I really wish they would get better at these ports. As far as things that are coming up on the channel, the next couple of months are going to be really busy. I don't know, we have too much. I mean, we have a lot of games coming out in May, but then of course June you've got your WWDC, you've got all of your kind of non E3 summer gaming events. IGN's doing their thing. I'm sure they're going to have probably some sort of a PC show. Microsoft, I'm sure Sony, even Nintendo is going to probably do a direct. So, even though there's not we'll have the Jeff Keighley, I forget what they call it, like Summer of Gaming thing. So there's going to be all these non E3 type of things happening in June, and I think that's like around the week of, like, I've heard a few events around like around June 8th or so. So around that time frame, I don't know if I will tune into some of these live and kind of archive them, or if I'll just give my thoughts on some of them. I guess it depends on how big the shows are. Um, but especially with just the other day now, Grand Theft Auto 6 got officially delayed till May 26th, 2026. So now people can freely breathe easier and start announcing their summer and fall release dates, because I know everyone was trying to avoid releasing their game when the GTA comes out because everyone's going to be flocking to that and no one's going to pay attention to anything else. So now we might start get to see some of these release dates pop up for your late summer, early fall. But there's going to be that. I mean, there's loads of games. I've got a few boomer shooters that I want to cover. Um, I will announce here, the only thing I can say thus far is I did reach out, and or Bethesda reached out to me just recently, and I was accepted to review Doom: The Dark Ages. So when the embargo lifts on May 9th, I will be able to provide some accessibility, kind of an accessibility review, accessibility uh, impressions and coverage of Doom: The Dark Ages. Of course, you very well know if you've been following the channel that I am a huge Doom fan. When I have the Toby accessibility mod, I've covered the main game, I've covered other Doom mods, Brutal Doom, and you know RTX things, and just all kinds of different things. So like, I love Doom. I love the Doom 2016. Doom Eternal, I really liked. I have a lot of respect for, but it just didn't click for me quite as much. And again, other life things happened right around launch that really kind of ruined the game for me in some ways. But like I said, I've been a huge Doom fan. Really looking forward to Doom: The Dark Ages, and I will be able to cover that for you guys. So that's all I'm at liberty to say at the moment. But I thank Bethesda for reaching out and allowing someone to be able to cover accessibility of the game prior to launch, just as other people are allowed to cover the game, for a mainstream audience. So that's really cool to see. Um, but a couple of just little, again, within the last week, we've had Arcos 2. I did a demo video for that a while back. That is out as a 1.0 release. We have um, Wizardom, which I've played a little bit of. That is now a 1.0 release. And these are both, it's really interesting because both are old school boomer shooters. They're pixely, but they're both like kind of magic. Think about Heretic, Hexen. They both sort of have that vibe and similarity, but they also have quite a bit to differentiate themselves. So they're still pretty unique. So I do want to be covering spotlight videos for both of those because they are really cool. If you're a boomer shooter fan, I definitely recommend both of these so far. I've been having a lot of fun with them. But a little other certain game kind of jumped to the forefront, what with the Doom and all. So look forward to that content. Again, we've got not sure what we're going to have in the way of blind accessible games. I've got a couple iOS games that I've been toying with that I might do a video for. As far as console games, I mean, there's a lot of other huge games coming out, indie games, AAA games. And unfortunately, we haven't really heard as to which ones or what types of accessibility are going to be in these games. And again, that's something that I really wish that more developers, just like they hype their graphics or their AI or how big their open world is or uh, all the different ways you can customize your character, all those things that they use during their hype cycle. I wish more companies would also start including and announcing what they've been doing for accessibility because, the games may have accessibility features, but if nobody knows about it, then, that's a problem too. And we want to know if we're going to be able to play as well. We've had the Oblivion remaster. I want to do a video for that. Yeah, I picked that up. I've played it a bit. And there are definitely some accessibility improvements. Um, but there are a few suggestions that I would still have that would make it even more low vision friendly. They actually added a spell that I still have to figure out how to get. I think I have to go to one of the mage guilds and buy the spell book um, for this clairvoyancy spell. It was a spell they added to Skyrim, and I think some of the Fallout games had it where you cast the spell and it will put a glowy line on the ground to follow toward your next objective. And I forget what game it was. Was it Dragon Age or was it like Dragon Age Veilguard, or was it there was some game that came out in the last couple months that they had where you would get some sort of a spell or an ability that would kind of do that sort of a thing like we're doing in Oblivion Remastered, but they had in settings they had an option to allow that at the start of the game. So even before you got that spell or that ability in the game, you could still use it as an accessibility tool, which, again, if Harry Potter had that, Hogwarts Legacy had that, that would have been another really good thing. Um, but I would love to see that as an option, and I'm actually thinking about writing to um, Bethesda to see if they can actually put that as a patch into their game, because that would be, not having to necessarily go into the world and find the clairvoyance spell, but to be able to use it as an accessibility guidance tool, amongst a couple other things, like, turning your camera to face the objective would help blind players. Um, so again, I'm going to try to reach out to them on that. But like I said, we've got Oblivion Remastered, we've got Doom coming out, we've got I don't know. We have so many things. Oh, speaking of which, the Switch 2 is coming out in June, and miraculously, somehow, I did appear to get a pre-order. I did get a pre-order of it through Best Buy. I wasn't, I had done the little thing through Nintendo's website. They're going to reach out to people around beginning of May here. Um, but I got kind of caught up in the hype when it was like, oh, hey, we're unlocking pre-orders at different places for people. I wasn't really trying hard for it, but it was right before I was going to bed that night, and I'm like, well, let me just load up a website and see if I can get through or whatever. I tried Target at first, and it looked like I was going to get in, but then the site was being stupid, and I couldn't get in, and I said, okay, whatever, I'm not going to do it, whatever. And then I saw, and I just decided, well, let's open the Best Buy iOS app. I've ordered things from there before, so I have my account information, I had my payment information, and they put you in this little queue, you waited in line, and so as long as you didn't leave the app, like you stayed in line. And as I was getting ready for bed, I just kind of stayed in line and let it do its thing. And I don't remember what it was after, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 minutes or something. I did actually get in, and once I was able to get through the queue there, I was able to reserve the Mario Kart bundle, and once I got it in my cart, I was actually able to go through the checkout process pretty painlessly, and it just sort of went through. So I'm kind of glad that it did. I know a lot of people were having trouble, no matter what place you pre-ordered it from. I know Target was doing it, Walmart was doing it, Best Buy, and then the next day GameStop was doing it. So I know a lot of people had trouble at all those different places, sources. So I count myself lucky on that. But especially with them, like I said, I was on the fence of whether I wanted to pre-order a Switch 2. I do want to play Mario Kart because I love Mario Kart. Donkey Kong looks really, really cool. And there's going to be other Nintendo first party stuff that's going to be fun. We got the GameCube stuff coming. That'll But more importantly, I do want to see to what extent their accessibility features are going to come into play. Like, how robust is their screen narration? Will it work in the eShop, or is it just going to be a few basic menus? I could see it going either way. I'm sort of preparing myself to be disappointed. Um, and then if it is more than that, I will be pleasantly surprised. Um, because again, remember when the PS4 had its accessibility, screen readers, text to speech, you had your main level menus were spoken, and then you'd go into a submenu. Text to speech is not available here. Great. And I don't know. There was a little blurb when we'd played that sample in the Nintendo video, where they had the sample of the text to speech, and there was even something there that they said that text to speech wasn't going to be available necessarily everywhere. So I don't know how limited it's going to be, and I think it'll be important to check that out. And now that I did pre-order, I'm kind of glad, because this ties into one of the topics I wanted to talk about. Um, Microsoft just went ahead earlier this week and decided to jack up the prices of all of their game consoles, their Xbox Series S and X, and their gaming accessories. The consoles, they jumped by like $80. I mean, these are systems that came out in what, 2020? The systems have been out for 4 or 5 years, and usually the trend is you release a new system, people buy it at the high price, and then they find a way to release different versions of it. Maybe they were able to use different cheaper, or the prices on some of the hardware came down so they could charge less. I think those days are behind us because Nintendo's jacking up their game prices for some stuff, and now Microsoft has said, hey, I have an idea. And this is what's really weird to me about Microsoft, is that you have this console that, people like, but it's not doing near as well as the PlayStation 5. Microsoft is really going this everything is an Xbox campaign. So you have your Game Pass, but then you can play Xbox streaming on some TVs, some set-top boxes, your phones and tablets and things like that. You have other, everything coming to PC pretty much on day one. You have a lot of, we have several titles that have been coming out the last couple of years are now coming to the PlayStation 5. Indiana Jones is out on PS5 now. Forza Horizon, the latest Forza Horizon is on the PS5. And so, I mean, the moment Gears or Halo hits the PlayStation 5, then it's crazy. But so it's really weird to see that, okay, you have a system that is, not doing as well as the PS5 to begin with, or the Switch for that matter. And you're trying to give a justification for people to buy into the Xbox ecosystem. I mean, granted, Game Pass is a really cool deal. You're going to be able to, like, you can play the Oblivion Remastered on Game Pass. You can play this Claire, or what is it, Claire Obscura, something or other, this other RPG that came out, the turn-based RPG that came out this last week. You can play that on Game Pass. You're going to be able to play Doom the Dark Ages. All these first-party AAA and indie Microsoft games are coming out on Game Pass day one. Most of the time, they're even coming to PC Game Pass now. But like, you've had the system that has been out for several years now, and you're upping the price. Like, I know Sony had just announced in the last 2 weeks or so that they are upping prices in other countries for the PS5. Now, with Microsoft doing what they're doing and whatever, I can only imagine that's going to happen in the United States too now. It's only a matter of time, I think, before Sony says, hey, guess what? We can raise our prices too. So, it's kind of bad. So, like I said, Microsoft has been raising the prices now. The Xbox Series S, I picked it up for like under $200 a couple years ago. Granted, it was a Black Friday deal, but I picked it up for, what was it, like, it was under $200. It was like 189 or something like that. It was like surprisingly cheap. And now the cheapest you are going to be able to get a Series S, and for the lower storage model, is like 379. That's damn near $200 more than what I paid for it a couple of years ago. That's crazy that it's that more expensive. I think because before, I think they were selling it for 300 retail, and then they just had really, really good deals for a little while. But still, that's insane. And again, I'm not going to list every price because you have the Series X and the Series S, and you have different storage tiers, the 512 gig, the 1 terabyte, the 2 terabyte one. But they range anywhere from, like, I think the lowest Xbox Series S is like $500 now, all the way up to like 730 or so. Whew. Suddenly that $450 Switch 2 doesn't look too bad, huh? Huh? I mean, like I said, I didn't think that the Switch 2 at 450 was all that bad to begin with. I wish that it was OLED instead of LCD. But other than that, for the hardware and stuff that was in it, I mean, the main two complaints hardware wise I have for the Switch 2 are I wish it were OLED, and 256 gigs seems laughable, as big as games are getting. And especially now that the system is more capable, um, you're gonna have more current games coming to the system. You already have like Cyberpunk, and I'm sure that Oblivion will probably come out to the Switch, if I had to imagine. But you're going to have all these games that are coming to current gen systems, maybe being able to be ported to the Switch 2 a lot easier. And so these games are big. 250 gig drive. I mean, yes, I know you can put the new types of micro SD Express or whatever they're called in there, but still, um, the just the low level of storage is sort of baffling. But the reason that I also bring that up is, I was talking about pre-ordering the Switch 2, and now that I have my pre-order with things going the way they're going, our um, president, shall we say, I won't call him what I want to call him, but with all these tariffs and all this bullshit that's happening right now, um, they said that they're not going to raise the prices now. But again, if Sony's doing it, if Microsoft is doing it, um, who knows? 2, 3 months down the road, will Nintendo jack up their price by $50 or $100? So I'm like, you know what? I've got my pre-order. I think I'm gonna lock this one in and buy the system before the price actually goes up. Because, like I said, instead of prices going down as they always have in the past, now they're just cranking up the prices. So, I remember when Meta did that with their Quest headset. Oh, we're gonna raise the price of the Quest 3. Well, god dang it. Now if I wanted to get it, not so much. Speaking of Meta and other wearables and stuff, they do have a deal. And if you watch this video as it is now, or if you watch it when it comes out today for Saturday, you have, I think, until sometime on Monday. I'd probably do it today or tomorrow. I saw a couple places on Twitter announce this where Amazon has this. There are these X-Real glasses, X-R-E-A-L, and these X-Real glasses. They're not. It's not a VR headset. They call it an AI or an AR, an augmented reality headset. But basically, what it is, they're probably. I don't have them yet, but they're more like sunglasses, maybe like the Meta Ray-Bans, maybe a little bit thicker, but it's basically like strapping a TV, putting a big screen TV in front of you via a pair of glasses instead of a bulky headset. And I've been looking at these and different types of these. There's another one called, what is it, Vitcher? But there's been a few different brands of these recently that I've been sort of curious about, because if I can hook my phone to them and just, whether I'm on like in a car, on a bus, or if I'm lying in bed and I just want to watch something on a big screen via my phone, I could see myself having uses for these, and I'm curious how well they work as a low vision user. Um, they are, like I said, Amazon has them on sale for like $150 off. There's two different versions actually. There's the X-Real 2, the X-Real Air 2, and they're like $110 off. I think they're like 250. And then the X-Real Air 2 Pros are $300. Now these are normally 400 and $450 or so respectively. So 110, 150 bucks off. I'm like, for that much of a discount, I kind of want to give them a shot to see how effective they are. They do have X-Reel it's confusing because they call them the X-Reel ones. Those are the newest ones, and I would really like to have that pair because the field of view is slightly larger, and it sounds like they've done some additional work with image stabilization. So like the Air 2s, I guess when you like if you move your head around, you may have seen this if you've wearing other sort of like blind CCTV, low vision wearables like CCTVs and things like that, or if you've used some mobile VR where like the image will kind of, depending on like if you subtly move your head, you'll see the image kind of shudder or shake a little bit or move, jitter around a little bit. And I guess the X-Reel ones have solved this to a large degree. But those are like 500 bucks. And since I don't know how well they're going to work, but I want to know about this technology, I figure to start with, I can start with these X-Reel Air 2s. And then eventually when, maybe when another model beyond the ones come out, maybe I'll upgrade to those if I like this sort of form factor. But basically what's neat about these is they pull power from whatever device they're connected to. They're USB-C, you plug them into your phone. I guess you can plug them into your Steam Deck. You can get a separate adapter that does HDMI, so you can plug into HDMI devices, but I just went with the regular glasses themselves, because I would like to be able to use them with my phone. I would like to be able to try them with my Steam Deck. I don't know if they'll natively work with the Switch. Maybe they'll work better with the Switch 2 when it comes out. I don't know, without any adapter. But now that I have a USB-C phone, it will work. It should work a lot better. So stay tuned for a hardware review for that. I should have that coming in the mail in a couple of days. On Monday, actually, I should be getting them. So, I'll give them, a few days and I'll play with them a little bit and let you know what I think of them. So I will have a hardware review for that. But yeah, so if you're interested in some sort of like in that sort of big TV, just wearing a big TV and a pair of glasses, go check out Amazon. You can get again, they're called the X-Reel Air 2 and the X-Reel Air 2 Pro, but you got to do it before Monday before they go back up in price. Um, so I already talked about the Xbox stuff, which is kind of ridiculous. That is one surprising bit of news. And the bad news just keeps on coming. Well, actually, this one isn't so bad. Um, you know what? I'm going to save this one for last because I'm going to end with something that could be at least somewhat positive. I have mixed feelings on it, but the other bad piece of news that we apparently just got on, what was it, Thursday? And the funny thing is, I had already done a video about this about 3 years ago, because they had major changes. So we just learned on Wednesday or Thursday this week that the people who bought out Polygon and Giant Bomb, two big websites in covering gaming news and reviews and all kinds of stuff, they're making some major changes and they made mass layoffs to both of these websites. I followed Polygon a little bit. I used to follow them a lot more when there were a few people that used to work there that I had known from, like, I believe some of them used to work at Joystick, which I followed for a while. But I think they even left, so I really haven't followed Polygon for that much for a while. But again, I've talked about Giant Bomb several times on the channel because I give them a lot of credit for inspiring me to do my channel the way that I make videos and release them on my channel. So I give them a lot of credit because, right now it's super common. We have Everybody with a webcam and or a microphone can just hop on their computer, record audio, record video, and slap it up to YouTube, slap it up to any number of podcast services. But even, 10, 15 years ago, you actually had to put in quite a bit more effort. You didn't have the conveniences of like Twitch or some of the other services. And so, people would actually have to, especially without capture cards, or they had to do different things with cameras, and they didn't have OBS and things like that. So Giant Bomb and even GameSpot back in the day they were ahead of the game. They were focused on personality driven content. It wasn't just about the games and the game reviews and whatever, the news. You were following these people on GameSpot, but especially Giant Bomb. You were following them because you liked the people and the content that they did, the weekly podcasts, the quick look videos, all the other videos that they would do. Um, and so the news was that there were a lot of layoffs, and a couple people actually just literally quit because of how piss poor the owners of these companies are just basically shitting all over everything that made the websites what they are. That's the thing is you get all of these companies, whether it's a game business, a technology business. I mean, you could even get, you use this for any business. You get these people that come in from whatever other industry, and they know nothing about the actual business that they're managing. You could be making widgets, you could be running a state vocational rehabilitation industry, you could be running a grocery store, and they come in from like, well, I'm managing a grocery store, and I used to manage at I don't know, like an airplane part store thing or something. I'm like, well, you know nothing about groceries. Um, so what makes you think that you're going to be able to do this well? And they just look at it from a pure shareholder profit because it's all about the money. It's not about the business making the money, or it's not about like the people that actually are doing the work making the money, because they're the ones that are, making the business happen. If it weren't for them, you wouldn't be making the products, you wouldn't be selling the services, you wouldn't be doing whatever it is. But no, we got to keep our stockholders, our shareholders happy, and our management, we have to make sure that our CEOs and all these big muckety mucks, these big wigs have our multi-million billion dollar salaries as they tank their business into the ground, and then they jump out of their skyscrapers with their golden parachute, and then they go get hired at another company and do it all over again. It's sickening. And so, yeah, because of whatever, like, we don't even know a lot of what happened. And I don't know that, you know, that people are really at liberty to talk openly about it. I guess Dan Reichert had done a stream on, what was it, Thursday night? And he was going to archive it, but then they were going to take it down. And I think the Giant Bombcast had a mention of it, and they pulled that down because they didn't want to get in trouble or something. And I wish I would have caught Dan Reichert's live stream to hear more about it. And hopefully we'll hear more about what happens in the coming days and weeks. But again, Dan Wright, like all the people that I even started to follow, I talked about Giant Bomb, like I said, a few years ago. Remember when we lost a lot of the core members of the original Giant Bomb crew? Unfortunately, Ryan Davis, rest in peace, buddy. We lost him in 2013, but all the other core people were still there. Brad Shoemaker, Vinny Caravella, Jeff Gersman. We had Patrick Klepek there for a while. We had, a few other people, and then Dan Reichert came in. I got to like him. We had Abby. We had Voigtberger. We had, then we had Jeff Grubb. We had, um, recent guy, Mike Minotti. I kind of got a kick out of him, especially the thing that I really liked about the recent Giant Bomb videos was their blight clubs, where they would basically they had a group of 3 or 4 people and they would kind of round robin it. It's like, okay, this time we're gonna make you, Dan, you're gonna play Sonic 06 and you have to play it through to completion. You have to play this horrible, this notoriously shitty game, and you have to struggle through it on camera where we can mock you along the whole way. And then we had, like Mike Minotti played Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. That game is fucking terrible. I remember renting that on the N64, and I was a big Mortal Kombat fan. I hated that game. It was so bad. Like I can't even describe like the controls. You literally had to hit a button to switch directions. Like when you're in a fighting game and you jump from the left or the right side of somebody, you automatically face the person. But in Mythology Sub-Zero, like you actually had to hit a button, and sometimes it would switch you automatically, and then you hit it, and then you would be facing away from them, and sometimes it would switch you, and then sometimes it wouldn't switch you, and there was platforming that was just super cheap. The game sucks. It's really bad. But it was really funny watching all of these, like Bubsy 3D was another just terrible game that they had played. And so those were really amusing. I I don't follow Giant Bomb as much as I used to because they've kind of moved away from a lot of the way they used to do the quick looks and things. I still listen to their podcast because they're generally pretty good. And I like their Blight Club. I like when they cover certain games, but again, I regularly follow Jeff Gersman. He's doing his weekly Jeff Gersman podcast. He does every Friday ranking 8-bit Nintendo games. It's a really amusing series he's been doing for about 2 years now. Um, Very entertaining. I watch a few of his other videos, but like, even Giant Bomb, the new staff, when they'll kind of do a live stream watch over of like the Nintendo Directs or major other gaming announcements, those sorts of things. So there are things that I still like about them, but it's just really sad to see not only Giant Bomb, but Polygon and so many of these other websites that used to be called games journalism are gone or on their way out. Like they said, oh, Giant Bomb isn't dead. We're just reevaluating and we have ideas to for the future of the brand. And it's just corporate speak dribble. Um, and like, I think we really do, like, I really do want to have some sort of like um, what's the word I'm even looking for? Not like authoritarianism, um, but like you almost want to have some like experienced, vetted people in the games press media that is their job to present news, to do reviews, to cover games from a um, experienced level. Because right now you see everything going toward influencers. I hate that word. I hate influencers, and I don't like YouTuber either. Yes, I create YouTube videos, but I'm not a YouTuber. It sounds like a tuber. It sounds like I don't like that word, but I hate the word influencer because it sounds so sleazy. It sounds like you're a paid shill, like a corporate shill for a company. Like, oh, I'm an influencer and I'm a famous person that you have to pay attention to. It just sounds so pretentious. Um, but like in some ways, like I get it. Like it's a whole lot probably cheaper and more effective to if you're a game company, let's say, and I'll use id for example or Bethesda. You could you're reaching out to places like IGN or GameSpot or Giant Bomb or whoever is left, and you got these traditional media outlets, And, you'll get some experienced coverage of your game, or you reach out to basically fans of the genre, fans of this company's games, and it'll kind of be a review, but it'll kind of be from a point of, well, we know these guys are, we basically will give codes to people we already know who are biased toward our games, and so we, we really like Metroidvania games, or we like first-person shooters, or we like RPGs, and so we're gonna market, or we're gonna give codes to those YouTube channels and Twitch streamers because they'll claim it's a review, but they'll be so happy that they got a code from us that they didn't have to pay for our game, that they'll be more likely to give us a positive rating because there's not there's not kind of like an ethics policy or an ethics standard to be like, oh, well, and if we really want to, sugarcoat them a little bit more, when we give them the game, we'll give them like, hey, what is your address? We'll send you some free swag, and you'll feel important, and you'll be able to share, hey, I got a controller, or I got a special Xbox system or something with that's custom for this game. Um, so like I get it, but at the same time, like I want to have some integrity. I mean, like, yes, I am getting a Doom the Dark Ages review key, and I have gotten some review keys in the past for things. But as I always tell people at the beginning and the end of videos like that, I make it clear that I did receive a review code for the game. But more importantly, this is not a sponsored video of like, hey, I'm just going to talk all kinds of positive things about your game. I'm going to give my honest thoughts and opinions of the game, good, bad, and everything in between. If there are things I struggle with, if there are things I don't like, I'm going to put that in my video. And I mean, I'm not going to be overly mean about it, but I'm not just going to blindly say, oh, hey, they gave me a code. Everything is all positive. You should totally get this game. You should totally get this device. I'm still going to tell it like it is. I have honesty. I have ethics. I have integrity. And I think that's really important. And especially a lot of they get these younger creators that come in and they're given free stuff and they're given access to all these different events or things. And I think some of that integrity is lost. And again, that's where you sort of get you're basically hiring a PR army for your company instead of, reaching out to industry professionals that try to keep. I mean, again, you're never going to be bias free. Ultimately, if let's say you work at IGN, if you are wanting to give an honest review for a game, you're not going to give a turn-based RPG fan, like a reviewer on staff, you're probably not going to give Doom the Dark Ages to that person unless they also really like first-person shooters. Because you want to have somebody who, let's say that, oh, they've played many, many first-person shooters over the years. They know what works, what doesn't. They know what they like, what they don't like. Same thing with like an RPG. Um, I've become more open to role playing games in the past few years because some of them have been more accessible. But I have never been a turn-based RPG fan all that much, or games like Civilization. I wouldn't even know where to begin. So I would not be a good person to do a definitive, full, in-depth review of those games. Unless the goal of an article or a review was to say, hey, what would what would a newbie feel about a game in this well-established genre? But getting back to the original topic, it's just like this Polygon giant bomb thing. It's just, I really hate seeing these big ass companies buying up smaller companies and then completely gutting them and getting rid of everything what made them work in the first place. I mean, look at what happened to like when EA buys everything and then they just completely dump all over the companies that they were. Um, you have like again Monolith. They're out of business now, but like they made some of the best shooters in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then they were in the Call of Duty mine or the no, they were making the hell were they making? I know they did the Shadow. Yeah, they were the Shadow of War people for a while. That was neat. Yeah, then I think they did go into the Call of Duty mines or something. But there's been so many companies that they bought up and then like, well, you're not going to do. Raven Software. They made all kinds of great games back in the day. And now they're in the Call of Duty mines. They just like, well, we have our core 2 or 3 series franchise that we're going to turn out every year, and you're just going to be another support team in that cog in that wheel. Um, it's just so disappointing because they don't. These idiot executives, they don't have any connection to what they're managing, and they don't understand what made them successful to begin with. Like again, you're not going to tell id to go make a 4X strategy game. That's not what they do. Um, it's just so disappointing because like I said, while I don't follow Giant Bomb near as closely as I used to, like I said, I remember when Jeff and Ryan started it. It wasn't even Giant Bomb, the Arrow Pointing Down podcast, and then they went to Giant Bomb, and they added a lot of the old crew back, and they got some new people in that I really liked. I remember when Patrick Klepek covered a lot of VR games as the Oculus Rift was coming out in the prototype 2, and when the original Rift hit, I would follow him a lot for he covered VR and he covered horror games in VR a lot, and so that was really fun. Um, Dan Reichert and again all those people that I mentioned earlier and then some. So it's really sucks that like the things that we have in the industry, it's like this is why we can't have nice things because people just come in and crap all over them. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I almost want to put a link in the description to the video I made on Giant Bomb because I think I a lot more efficiently described what made Giant Bomb so great back in the day and why I followed them and how and why their website was inspiration for illegally cited. I create like if you look at the early videos on the channel, they weren't low vision spotlights, they were quick looks because I didn't know what else to call them. And I was using it as a generic term, just like you would use for Let's Play or walkthrough or things like that. I just used that. But I felt awkward about it because I guess not many people were using Quick Look other than Giant Bomb. And so it was an homage, but I didn't want to feel like I was outright ripping them off in name. But I like that style of covering games and tech. So, like I said, I mean, other people as well, but I think largely Giant Bomb is sort of their style is what inspired me to start and keep going with illegally cited over the past many years now. The final topic I want to talk about is another interesting little thing that had um, that happened. Apple lost their case with Epic Games. Remember in about 2019, 2020, Fortnite got pulled from the iOS App Store because Epic didn't want to pay Apple their 30%, and they said, well, no, we're going to offer you a link in our app so that you can do in-app purchases or whatever and sidestep Apple. And Apple said, oh, no, you're not. And so they pulled Fortnite from the store. Epic then filed a lawsuit with them, and that's been going on. And apparently the judge was kind of pissed recently. I listened to a Vergecast episode on it. You might want to check that episode out. I'm sure other podcasts will be covering it in the future too. And I don't have all the details, but I've followed it a little bit, and it's interesting because the outcome of all of this is that, the whole big thing with Apple is they want to take their 30% cut. So they want to say, okay, if you release an app for $5, you have to give us 30%. In-app purchases, you have to give them 30%. They were restricting to say, like, you cannot link to purchasing through a web interface. You can't link them outside of the app because then we don't get our 30% cut. That's why so many apps, like if you want to sign up for a service or if you want to buy a book, like a Kindle book, you have to go to the Amazon website, buy the Kindle book, and then when you open up the Kindle iPhone app, then you will see the Kindle book that you bought there, and you can read it. But you can't buy a Kindle book within the app because Amazon doesn't want to pay Apple their 30% per Kindle book, which I get it. And Apple says, no, you can't just let them buy through Amazon directly. That's just one example. But so it sounds like what's going to happen. It sounds like Patreon and a few other places are already starting to toy with this idea, is that you are now, I guess, going to be able to, if you're an app developer, link to other payment methods. Like you don't have to go through Apple Pay. You don't have to go through Apple if you want to link to your own storefront. You can have a link in your app, or you can have a button in your app that will take you to, like, it'll pass your, let's say that you're logged into the Netflix app and you want to change or renew your membership. You would have to go to the website, manually log in, but now it sounds like you will be able to, like the developer will be able to know that, oh, you're logged into the Netflix app. We will link you out to our Netflix website, and we will pass your logged in credentials because you're logged in with the app as we pop you out to our website real quick for a little bit cheaper payment. We'll just know that you're logged in and you can just pay on our website versus paying through Apple, and that way you'll save 30% on whatever it is you're buying. So it'll be interesting to see how well this is implemented by some of these apps and what other, because Apple's going to lose a lot of revenue on this. They sell iPhones, they sell iPads and Macs, but like they're really trying to make all their money on services, whether that's paying for iCloud or all their other services, Apple Arcade, Apple TV, Apple Fitness. But where they're really getting is, again, all of these in-app purchases. So, you get these whales that spend thousands of dollars on Clash of Clans or what's that stupid game? Candy Crush. You get these people that spend hundreds or thousands of dollars. Every time they get those purchases, those go through Apple. So Apple's making bank on this stuff. And they're not going to be able to necessarily do that as much anymore. Now, again, I see good and bad things from both sides, because it will be nice that, maybe in a near future update, maybe we will be able to buy Kindle books directly through the app, in the iOS app. Maybe, like I know they made some weird exception where you can do Audible books in the Audible app. You can buy them. But like, whether you're paying for like a Patreon subscription Or you're buying a product, like you'll be able to buy something without going through Apple. And that will, in fact, again, if you're buying something a little more expensive, you'll be able to save that 30%, and that'll be nice. Now, the one thing I will give Apple is I have done a couple of things, just going using Apple Pay, like to try an app. Maybe I'll try a subscription app for a month to see if it's worth it. Like, let's say I subscribe to Voice Dream, or let's say I buy a lifetime membership for, I don't remember what it was. There was an app that I bought a lifetime subscription for because it was discounted like $50 or something like that. But even if I were to, let's say I did a trial of a streaming service, and when you sign up for the website, if you go through that company directly, one of the things I hate about that type of system is that they will try everything that they can to lock you into keeping that subscription. So, like, on the website, they may try to, hide the council subscription. They may bury it in the settings somewhere. They may bury it under the help somewhere that you have to really hunt and look for it. And then when you do finally find the thing, they're like, well, what if we give you this offer? Oh, are you sure you want to do this? They try to guilt trip you, or they're like, oh, well, what if we do this? Or, you know, let's have there was one where it was like they wanted to have a rep call you by phone and make sure that, like, why do you want to cancel this? You have to go through our phone just to make sure so we can try to talk you out of it. And what's nice is that with the Apple subscription stuff, if you go through Apple Pay, I mean, as a developer, if you have Apple managing the back end, and even if they were maybe to charge 5-10% instead of 30, it would make both sides win, because okay, you might pay a couple cents extra, but if you're a small developer, you don't have to manage all of the payment back end and the subscription back end as a developer. You can let Apple handle all that for you. And as a user, it's nice because all I have to do is, if I subscribe through Apple, all I got to do is open up my settings app, go in at the very top of my settings. I click on my Apple ID. I tap on the subscriptions option. It lists everything that I'm subscribed to. I go into that thing, and if I want to switch a tier, a higher or lower tier, or unsubscribe altogether, I simply click unsubscribe, and it says, are you sure you want to do it? I say yes, and poof, you're unsubscribed. It literally takes 5 seconds to do. I don't have to hunt for it. I don't have to be guilted into trying to stay. I don't have to battle my way through trying to unsubscribe from a service. It's painless. And so, being able to just, raise or lower or pause or cancel a subscription, it is really convenient. So, I mean, I would love to see something where, maybe Apple has been kicked in the teeth enough. Maybe they'll learn a little bit of humility. Ha ha ha. Um, but I would love to see something where both sides could win. So it will be interesting. I'm curious, how many apps are we going to be allowed to have third-party app stores? Like, is Microsoft going to be able to put like an official Game Pass or like Xbox app where you can buy Xbox games? Because now you don't have to go through Apple, and they could just say, oh, you want to buy a copy of Halo? You want to buy a copy of Oblivion Remastered for your Xbox account? Yeah, you can do it with the Xbox app now. Um, Things like that. Are they gonna, there's been talk of Epic might be able to let Fortnite back in the App Store next week. So I could care less about Fortnite, but for people who do, that'll be an interesting thing to see if that comes back. And so I'm curious to see. I know, of course, Apple's going to appeal this decision, but I'm curious to see, how Apple's going to react to that, and what app developers are going to do, and what is that going to mean for us? Are we going to be able to freely, more easily buy and subscribe and unsubscribe to things? Um, are we going to be able to have other little storefronts within certain apps? Am I going to have an Epic Game Store app where I can just buy Epic Games and play them or whatever in the iOS app? Who knows? I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see. So I know I rambled on quite a bit here again, but as I said, there's been literally within the last like 3 days or so, there's just been all of these news stories. You got Xbox jacking up their prices. You have all these idiots wrecking another couple of games press sites, and then you got other people, other influencers or other these YouTubers or whatever, all happy about it. It's like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not hoping for games to fail. Like, I don't want a game to launch and do badly. Or I want, if there's a fan for Polygon, if there are fans for Giant Bomb or IGN or whatever, let them do their thing. If you don't want their content, don't watch it. Don't read it. It's like if you just want, like, if you don't care about the accessibility features, don't use them. But for the people who want them or need them, they're there. Um, and that's the other thing with everything going. I should have mentioned this before, but like in the Giant Bomb Polygon topic there, this whole shift to people getting all of their news from streamers, YouTubers, content creators, one-off people. I mean, to be fair, here I am. I'm just one dumb schmuck releasing a video and giving thoughts on many different topics, and I'm pretending like I know what the hell I'm talking about. So I understand the irony there. Um, but at the same time, like I said, I try to keep a level head. I try to look at it from both sides. I try to, I will give my opinion, but I will base it on fact, or I will base it on history of what I've learned about the gaming industry, what I've experienced. I try to ground it in reality. I try to I try to ground it in, uh, some sort of fact. And like the whole toxic tech and gaming culture lately has just been, there's enough of that in mainstream politics right now. I mean, just the thought of another 3.5 years of this administration makes me want to run and bash my head into a wall. Um, but anytime a new game is announced, anytime a new game is released, there's this subset of gaming culture, so to speak, that has to find something to bitch about. They have to find some controversy to make up about something. Oh no, there's a woman in my game. Oh no, there's a black person. Oh no, there's a trans person or a gay person. Oh no. Oh, they switched it from male to female to type 1 and type 2. Oh no, they added accessibility features. Oh no, they did something I don't like, that I don't personally agree with. Therefore, they are evil and they're wrong and you should boycott them. Um, like if I hear the word woke again, I think I want to puke. I get where the word comes from, but it's lost all meaning at this point. Like I'm tired of both sides of the extreme. Like I get that you want to advocate for inclusion and openness and what woke is supposed to mean. And I advocate for accessibility, but I will strongly advocate for it, but I'm not going to like shove it down anyone's throat and hostilely um, yell at people because they don't agree with me. Um, but every single game, these whiny, insecure people, um, they're so insecure, kind of like a certain leader of this country who shall remain nameless. these insecure narcissists that just are so toxic and loud and annoying. Um, if these are the people that these gaming companies are reaching out to, ugh, that's why I think we need some sort of, you know, again, balanced, like we need some professionalism and integrity in our games coverage. I'm not saying that it should be dry or, clinical analysis of everything, but like you got to have some sort of professionalism. I give my own opinions, but I try to have some at least ethics and integrity and try to keep things, when I'm mad at something, yeah, there's a lot more things that I could say, but I'm not going to make an ass out of myself um, by going completely overboard. But anyway, those are a lot of the topics that I wanted to cover because, again, they will affect a lot of us. Xbox raising prices, Giant Bomb and other websites closing. We've got who knows what's going to happen with Apple and the way we're able to buy things. All these tariffs, do you buy a gaming system now? Do you pre-order a Switch now, or do you wait and see if the tariffs bend us over even further? Or, like I said, now that the other cynical part of me says is like, okay, well now we have the tariff as an excuse. Like gaming companies or any company would love to be able to jack the prices up on their products even further than what they are, but there's only so much the public will take. But now if we have an excuse like tariffs, well, let's see. Well, now we can say that, well, tariffs are the reason. It's not because we're greedy and want to give our shareholders and our executives more money, but we'll blame it on the tariffs. And then and because other companies are starting to do it, we're going to do it too. And then when the tariffs are no longer an issue, we just won't lower things down again and we'll be able to collect that overhead. We'll be able to collect that extra profit. So, no, I'm not cynical at all. Just realistic, experienced, if you will. But anyway, all that negativity aside, I mean, it's weird because on one hand, you have all the politics crap, you have all the business side of things, the executive side of things, just crapping all over everything. And all those things are horrible. Layoffs and closures and all these things. And then you have the first 4 or 5 months out of the year this year, there's way too many games for me to even come close to keeping up with. There's games that I probably won't even play due to accessibility or lack of time. It has been one hell of a year for games already, and without GTA 6, there's still going to be loads of games in the second half of the year. We know a couple of Nintendo games that are going to be coming out in the next couple of months, but who knows what they're going to have in the last few months. We've got indie games, we've got AAA games. We know a lot of stuff that's going to be coming. So there's still a lot to look forward to. And if AAA games are too expensive, please don't forget the indie games. Don't forget about deep sales. I mean, I literally just tweeted yesterday. You can get the entire Mass Effect Legendary Edition trilogy for $6 on Steam. That is a metric shit ton of content for $6, and those are great games. Jade Empire was $3. I mean, you can get like huge games that I paid full price for, whole games or whole collections of things. If you wait for sales, you can get them criminally cheap. Like I literally, just to have a DRM free version, I picked up the original Fear on GOG for $3. So, I mean, yes, I have it through Steam, but let's say I wanted a DRM free version I could put on whatever. $3? Pfft, people spend more than that on a coffee. So anyway, plenty to look forward to on the channel. I will try to figure out what I'm going to cover in June with all the events coming up. We've got our Doom, the Dark Ages thing that I'm looking forward to covering. We got a lot of indie games that I'm going to be covering. We got our X-Real glasses I'm going to try to take a look at. A lot of different things, but definitely keeping busy. My work life is also super busy, so that's, who knows what's going craziness is going to happen with that. We got this whole return to office thing. We've got all these other things happening and the usual stuff. So yeah, things are not slowing down at all. But we're going to keep this YouTube thing going here. Thanks for everybody's support. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. You can follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, Blue Sky at Illegally Cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, we'll chat with everybody again later.